because football is the ultimate team sport. And even in this broadcasting role, Chris, that's what I look for all the time. When a quarterback throws a touchdown pass, I actually watch to see who he goes and celebrates with. Because what did I do? I looked for my offensive lineman every time. I went down and celebrated in the end zone with my teammates every time. I wanted everyone to feel like they were part of the success. I told the linemen, we're all running to the end zone and we're celebrating as a team. Because I think that's way more intimidating than a quarterback doing his six-shooter guns and pointing up in the crowd and doing all that other bullshit that's very self-promotional, but it's not about winning. And I think winning in football is about a team, always a team attitude first.
Let's be honest, this is the kind of statement that rattles the entire football world. When Tom Brady, the 7-time Super Bowl champion and widely considered the greatest quarterback ever, grabs a mic and says today's QBs aren't as mentally sharp as they used to be, you can feel the shockwaves hit every locker room, scouting department, and front office across the league. And hidden in those words might be the very reason the Las Vegas Raiders decided to pass on Shedeur Sanders. Now, to be clear, Brady never mentioned Shedeur by name. He was speaking about quarterbacks in general. But the timing? The context? The Raiders skipping over Shedeur when so many believed he was their guy? You can't ignore the dots lining up. This isn't just casual commentary. This feels like a glimpse into how NFL decision-makers are judging young quarterbacks, and it lands squarely on Shedeur's situation. Brady spelled it out. Today's NFL is obsessed with athleticism. Mobile quarterbacks, rocket arms, highlight reel plays. But what about the mental chess game? The pre-snap reads, the audibles, the hours of film study, the ability to put your team in the perfect play before the snap? That's the foundation Brady built his dynasty on in New England, and in his eyes, it's fading fast. He said it himself, I don't believe the quarterback position is as mentally developed as it was when I entered the league 25 years ago. And when Tom Brady says that, teams listen, fans listen, and suddenly the Shedeur Sanders situation looks a whole lot different. Because Shedeur has the physical tools. We all know that. Strong arm, mobility, that swagger that comes straight from being Deion Sanders' son. But if front offices are secretly buying into Brady's philosophy, that physical talent doesn't matter unless the mental game is elite, then maybe, just maybe, that's why the Raiders passed. But hold on, let's not forget, Shedeur has shown nothing but confidence in Cleveland. He's not shrinking under pressure. He's not sitting quietly while people question him. No, he's doubled down, telling the world he's comfortable with the Browns, confident in the roster, and ready to prove himself. That's leadership. That's mental strength. So the question becomes, are teams like the Raiders undervaluing Shedeur's football IQ because they're too blinded by this Brady-era definition of mental toughness? Or is Brady onto something that Shedeur still has to prove? If Tom Brady himself says young quarterbacks aren't mentally ready, how do you think that lands in locker rooms when a rookie like Shedeur walks in? Respect or doubt? Think about Brady's story for a second. This guy wasn't fast. He wasn't flashy. He was famously unathletic. So much so that his NFL combined footage is basically a meme at this point. But what did Brady do? He turned his lack of speed into a weapon. Because he couldn't run, he sharpened his mind. He became the master of studying defenses, adjusting at the line of scrimmage, and making sure his offense was always one step ahead. And Brady flat out admitted it. I think you better have a mental advantage on the field, and I think sometimes that's more important than the physical advantage. That's not just a football philosophy, that's a direct challenge to the new generation of quarterbacks. The question is, does Shedeur Sanders fit into that box? Can he prove he's more than just arm talent and speed? Now, here's where it gets messy. Because while Brady was praising the importance of mental toughness, he also threw some shade at the way today's QBs are playing the game. He basically said running the football is terrible for a quarterback's long-term success. He called it exciting, sure. Fun to watch, absolutely. But he doesn't think it wins you games over the long haul. And in an era where quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and yes, even a prospect like Shedeur Sanders use mobility as part of their toolkit, that's a controversial stance. So, is Brady right? Are mobile quarterbacks doomed to burn out? Or is he just bitter that he never had wheels? Here's where the Raiders come in. Brady's comments shine a light on how front offices might actually think when draft day rolls around. Fans see Shedeur Sanders highlights and say, "That's the guy." But GMs? Scouts? They're sitting in dark film rooms asking, does he process coverages? Does he know when to audible? Can he manage the game when things break down? That's what Brady is hinting at. That's the standard. And if the Raiders thought Shedeur wasn't there yet, mentally, maybe that's why they passed. But let's flip it. Because Brady also admitted something that makes this whole conversation even more fascinating. He said, "Now did I wish I could have run? Of course I wished I could have run. But because I couldn't run, I had to double down on those things more than anybody else." Translation? Brady envied mobility. He knew he didn't have it. So is it possible he's overvaluing the mental game because it's the only way he could dominate? And if that's the case, does it even apply to someone like Shedeur, who has both the arm and the athleticism? Is this wisdom from the GOAT, or jealousy from a guy who couldn't run?
This is and I feel very strongly about this too. I don't believe the quarterback position is mentally as developed as it was when I entered the league 25 years ago. There was a premium on understanding defenses, on understanding matchups, on, I'd say, pre-snap reads, getting your team in and out of the right play. And I felt the way that I learned to play the position over a period of time will lead and will continue to lead. You'll give your team the best chance to win. To truly be a field general, like all the guys that we admired growing up, the John Elways, the Dan Marinos, the Joe Montanas, I think you better have a mental advantage on the field. And I think sometimes that's more important than the physical advantage. Now, did I wish I could run? Of course I wished I could have run. But because I couldn't run, I had to double down on those things much more than anybody else. I ran a 5.28 40 at the combine. So I knew that if the ball was in my hands, nothing good was going to happen. So I had to get that ball out of my hands so fast that the defensive line couldn't make an impact on the game. And I had to get it into my skill position players' hands so they could actually advance the ball down the field in order to put us in a position to score points.
This is where the controversy explodes. Because if teams start to overcorrect, if they start drafting based on some Brady-inspired mental checklist, they might miss out on generational athletes who can change the game in ways Brady never could. And that's where Shedeur Sanders comes back into the spotlight. Shedeur isn't just a runner. He isn't just a gunslinger. He's a calculated passer who proved in college he could stand in the pocket, dissect defenses, and deliver strikes. He showed poise under pressure. He showed patience when things collapsed around him. So why is his mental game suddenly being questioned? Is it fair? Or is it just lazy scouting influenced by this Brady standard that doesn't apply anymore? Do you think Tom Brady's philosophy is outdated in today's NFL, or is it exactly why he won 7 Super Bowls? Let's zoom back out for a second, because Tom Brady didn't just stop at pointing out the lack of mental sharpness in today's quarterbacks. He dug deeper into what really separated him from the rest. Brady talked about mastering defensive strategies, making pre-snap adjustments, and keeping composure in high-pressure moments. In his eyes, those are the real building blocks of greatness. But here's the twist: how many young quarterbacks are even given the chance to grow in that way anymore? Think about it. Rookie QBs today are tossed into the fire immediately. There's no patient grooming, no sitting behind a veteran for years the way Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre. These guys are expected to start, produce, and win right now. So when Brady criticizes them for not being mentally ready, is it their fault or the league's fault for rushing the process? Are quarterbacks failing the NFL, or is the NFL failing quarterbacks? And this is where Shedeur Sanders finds himself in the middle of a storm. The Browns believe in him. The Raiders didn't. And now Tom Brady's comments add gasoline to the fire. People are asking, does Shedeur have the patience, the leadership, the calm decision-making that Brady is talking about? Look, Shedeur is not your typical run-first quarterback. At Colorado, he showed a willingness to stand tall in the pocket and deliver. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't bailing out on plays the second the pocket collapsed. That's what makes this entire conversation so fascinating. Because while Brady warns against the dangers of athletic quarterbacks relying too much on their legs, Shedeur seems to be more balanced than people give him credit for. So when the Raiders passed on him, maybe it wasn't about talent. Maybe it wasn't even about fit. Maybe it was about fear, the fear that he didn't yet fit into this Brady-inspired model of quarterbacking. Do you think the Raiders made a mistake passing on Shedeur Sanders, or was it the right call for them? But let's not act like this is just about Shedeur and the Raiders. No, this is about the entire identity of the quarterback position in 2025 and beyond. We are in a battle for what the quarterback is supposed to be. On one side, you have Tom Brady, waving the flag for the mental game, for the cerebral approach, for the pocket generals who study film like it's religion. On the other, you have the new wave, Lamar Jackson dazzling defenders with his legs, Jalen Hurts powering through defenses like a running back, and Shedeur Sanders coming in with a hybrid style that mixes mobility, accuracy, and confidence. This isn't just a debate about football, it's a clash of generations, a war for the soul of the quarterback position. Brady, of course, has every right to speak his truth. He won 7 Super Bowls, played 23 seasons, and built the greatest resume in NFL history. But let's be honest, times have changed. Defenses are faster. The game is more spread out. Quarterbacks are asked to do things Brady never had to do. So the question becomes, is Brady's advice timeless, or is it locked in the past? Now think about this. If Shedeur Sanders had come into the league 25 years ago, would scouts have said he was too flashy? Would they have dismissed his mobility as a gimmick? Would a young Tom Brady have looked at Shedeur and said, "That's not how you play quarterback"? Probably. But does that mean Shedeur can't succeed in today's NFL? Absolutely not. Because here's the part Brady didn't say out loud. Football evolves. The game changes. And sometimes, greatness comes from breaking the rules of the past, not following them. Do you think Shedeur Sanders is the future of the quarterback position, or just another hyped prospect the league is overrating? Now, let's circle back to the Raiders because this is where the controversy really stings. The Raiders had a chance to draft Shedeur. They had the opportunity to put him in silver and black and give their franchise a new face. Instead, they passed. And the whispers say it had nothing to do with his talent. It had everything to do with whether they believed he could run the offense with that Brady-like mental precision. But let me ask you, how many so-called mentally sharp quarterbacks have the Raiders drafted in the past 2 decades? How many have turned into stars? The Raiders are not exactly a quarterback factory. So should we even trust their judgment on this? When the Raiders pass on a quarterback, is that really an indictment or a blessing in disguise? Brady's comments also opened the door for another uncomfortable reality. NFL teams aren't just evaluating quarterbacks based on film and stats. They're evaluating them based on legacy. The shadow of Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, it still looms over the draft process. And if you don't fit that old-school mold, if you don't remind scouts of those guys, sometimes you're dismissed before you even take a snap. But here's where Shedeur Sanders stands apart. He's not trying to be Brady. He's not trying to be Manning. He's carving his own lane, just like his father, Dion, carved his in the 90s. He's betting on himself, betting on his leadership, and betting on the fact that the game is ready for something new. Is Shedeur Sanders being unfairly judged against quarterbacks from a different era? And let's not forget the irony in all of this. Tom Brady himself wasn't supposed to make it. He was a 6th-round pick. A long shot. The scouts didn't believe in him. The experts said he wasn't athletic enough, didn't have the arm strength, didn't look the part. Sound familiar? That's exactly how Shedeur is being doubted now. And yet, Brady turned those doubts into motivation. So maybe, just maybe, Shedeur will do the same. What if Shedeur Sanders is the next great quarterback story, overlooked, underestimated, and ready to prove everyone wrong? At the end of the day, here's the truth. Tom Brady's words carry weight. They always will. When he speaks, the NFL listens. But that doesn't mean the game stops evolving. That doesn't mean Shedeur Sanders can't succeed. In fact, it might mean the opposite. Because Shedeur is stepping into the league with something Brady never had. Physical gifts, yes, but also the confidence, swagger, and composure to silence doubters. The Raiders may have passed, but the Browns didn't. And in Cleveland, Shedeur has the chance to prove that Brady's definition of greatness isn't the only definition. That the quarterback of the future doesn't have to look like the quarterback of the past. Do you believe Shedeur Sanders will prove Tom Brady wrong, or will Brady's words end up being a prophecy? And with that, we bring this full circle. Tom Brady exposed what he sees as the fatal flaw in modern quarterbacks. The Raiders might have listened, passing on Shedeur Sanders in the process. But the Browns, the fans, and Shedeur himself? They're ready to write a different story. And trust me, this story isn't over yet. Because if Shedeur Sanders proves everyone wrong, this moment, Tom Brady's warning, will go down as the spark that lit his fire. And there you have it. Tom Brady has shaken up the quarterback conversation again, and Shedeur Sanders is right in the middle of it. But now I want to hear from you. Do you think the Raiders made the mistake of a lifetime passing on Shedeur? Or was Brady's philosophy right all along? Drop your takes in the comments, and let's get this debate rolling. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more deep dive coverage of the NFL's biggest controversies, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and join us right here on Gridiron Insights, your home for the real stories behind the headlines.